Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're looking at valence and valence electrons, and this is presented to you by Science Visualized. Valence means the number of bonds formed by an atom. Valence electron means the number of electrons on the outermost energy level. For example, oxygen is in group 6A, and because of that, it has 6 electrons on the outer energy level, and therefore the valence electrons of oxygen is 6. Now I'd like to introduce two rules. Octet rule states that atoms gain stability when they have 8 electrons on the outer energy level, while duplet rule says that atoms attain stability when they have 2 electrons on the outer energy level. Looking at oxygen, it has 6 electrons, and for it to gain 8 electrons, it's missing 2 electrons, and therefore it will form 2 bonds, so it has a valence of 2. Another example, hydrogen is in group 1 and has 1 electron at the outer energy level, and therefore the valence electron is 1. At the same time, it will need 1 more electron to form a duplet, and therefore it will form 1 bond, therefore it has a valence of 1. You now realize that a group number equals to the number of electrons in the outer energy level, which is the valence electron. If you enjoyed this presentation, please subscribe. Thank you. Valence electrons, valence and charge. Looking at group number 1, that's hydrogen, lithium, sodium, and potassium, it has a valence electron of 1. That means it has 1 electron on the outer energy level. And then an example of that will be sodium, which has 11 electrons. And if you distribute that, you write the electron configuration for that to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, and 3s1. And that accounts for the 11 electrons. But you'll see that the outermost energy level has 1 electron, the 3s1, which is an example of a group 1, can get to an octet state, that's 8 electrons, by either accepting 7 electrons, so adding 7 more electrons, or losing 1 electron. We'll see that it will prefer to lose 1 electron than to accept 7 electrons. When it loses 1 electron, now you end up with the next shell, the second level, which already has 8 electrons and therefore satisfies an octet rule. But now, because you lost 1 electron, you end up forming a bond of 1, so we say it has a valence of 1. And because the number of electrons now is 1 less than the number of protons, then it has a charge of plus 1. Next, group 2, beryllium, magnesium, and calcium, has 2 electrons on the outer energy level, and it will lose those 2 electrons, so you have a valence of 2, and then you end up with a charge of plus 2. Group 3, boron, aluminum, and gallium, has 3 electrons on the outer energy level. We prefer to lose all the 3, so forms 3 bonds, and therefore end up with a charge of plus 3. Group 1, 2, 3 are called metals because they form positively charged ions. Next, group 4. This is very interesting. Because it has 4 electrons on the outer energy level, it will require the same amount of energy to either gain 4 more electrons to get to 8 or lose 4 electrons. And because it won't do any of those, it will prefer to share its electrons, and therefore it ends up forming covalent bonds. So group 4 will still make 4 bonds and therefore has a valence of 4, but it has no charge. Group 5, nitrogen, phosphorus, and arsenic, has 5 valence electrons, and then it only needs 3 more electrons to make 8, and therefore it will form 3 bonds, but because you're adding 3 more electrons, you end up with a charge of minus 3. Group 6, oxygen, sulfur, and selenium, has 6 valence electrons, and then you only need to add 2 more electrons, so it makes 2 bonds, and you end up with a charge of minus 2. Group 7, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine, has 7 valence electrons, and therefore it's missing only 1 more electron to make 8, so it will make 1 bond, and you end up with a charge of minus 1. And then last group, inert gases, helium, neon, argon, and krypton has 8 valence electrons. And because that's already satisfied, it satisfies the octet rule, then you don't need to make any bonds, so they generally don't react and they don't have any charge. And then starting from group number 4 all the way to group number 8 are nonmetals. Then group number 5 all the way to group number 7 will form a negative charge. Thank you very much for your time. If you enjoyed this presentation, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing and liking the video. Thank you.